There is a battle going on right now in stock markets. On one side are buyers who think the market slide is over, that inflation will end and that central banks will start cutting interest rates sometime soon. On the other hand, others are cautious, waiting for signs that inflation is over. Business editor Ross Greenwood joins us now. Ross, I'm guessing this is the dilemma for investors here as well.
Well, it doesn't matter whether you're buying a house, Kenny, or whether you're buying shares at the moment. It really is one of those decisions because where inflation ends up is also where interest rates will end up. And the markets in the recent times have been suggesting that inflation is coming down. And as a result, eventually, you're going to see central banks around the world also starting to ease up on these massive interest rate rises that have been seen in the past little while and which are forecast to go on for some time. So I'll give you a good example of this. The stock market is where you're going to see most of the action. And so if we go through some of the top stocks in Australia. So these are from the top 200 stocks in Australia. In the past month, these are some of the best performers, leaving aside those which are being taken over. So Zip, which people thought might have been going out the door backwards, up by 76%. Polynovo, artificial skin company, up by 43%. Kogan, the online retailer, up by 39%. So in 1 month, these are big, big gains. If we go to some of the biggest stocks in Australia, this gives you a little hint as well. There's BHP up by 12%. Stellar profit result just last week. Rio Tinto up by 1.5%, bit more modest. CSL, again, one of our biggest companies, up by 2.9%. And then you go, say, to the banks. Now, they're a pretty good litmus test because they do move on interest rate movements as well. Commonwealth Bank up by more than 6%, Westpac up by 10%, NAB up by 10%, and ANZ up close to 10% as well. So, Kenny, what really at the moment is that there are plenty of people willing to back that interest rates eventually are going to come down, maybe late next year, and indeed that the worst of the crisis in regards to inflation is well and truly over.
Right, so what can we read into all that? Is inflation coming to an end or not?
Well, this is a really interesting point, and we get a few stats out there. Just understand that one reason why inflation took off was because of energy prices. So fuel prices, oil prices went to $120 a barrel. Lots of other things, including food prices, went up as well. Those things have come down. So when the oil price right now is in the 80s, that's significant deflation. And that suggests that really, inflation is going to end. However, there's only one problem, and that is the reason why that oil price and why other commodity prices have come down is largely as a result of an expectation that world economies are going to slow dramatically. Maybe the United States and Europe fall into recession. Now, as soon as there's signs that they're starting to go again, well, of course, what's going to happen? The oil price is going to pop. All those other commodity prices will pop again. The inflation will come back. We can see it even here. Recent inflation numbers have come out and shown really that Australia's inflation has been on the up. And so this is the one you can see. It's expected to peak out around about 7.75%, according to the Reserve Bank and Treasury. So that's the reason why they will not take their foot off the pedal in regards to interest rate rises, because they're worried it might come back. And also the fact of the matter is that you're going to see a situation that they want that inflation stone dead before the interest rate rises stop.
As you mentioned, energy prices are a big part of this. You mentioned the petrol prices are down. So are we going to have a repeat of the energy crisis we saw this year for gas and electricity?
Well, it's interesting. I went and had a chat yesterday with Frank Calabria, who is the Chief Executive of Origin Energy. Now, clearly Origin Energy are in every aspect of the energy markets, from selling gas overseas and into the local markets, from creating electricity from coal-fired power stations to renewables. So they're in every part of this. Now, I put it to Frank Calabria quite deliberately, well, is it cheaper or better off for you as a company and an organisation to sell gas overseas and deny it to Australians, or is it actually better off to put it into the Australian market? Here's his response.
For most of the year, I'd have to say that the export price was well above the domestic price, okay? And in fact, most of the contracted prices that customers enjoyed over the last year are well below what were those export prices. The markets tightened up and connected right at that pinch point in June in particular, where gas-fired generation is drawing on a large amount of gas in order to serve the market for electricity, and that's when you saw the international price and the domestic price tighten up. And therefore, I think it's really around only those pinch point times. Now, that spot price, I should say, domestically has reduced quite a bit since then, over just the last week or two. So it is actually would have been beneficial to send gas offshore for some of those cargoes throughout the year, but nevertheless, I think it's important that there's always enough gas available to the domestic market, and it is evident that over the last 10 of the last 12 months, or 11 of the 12 months, the gas price in Australia was well below those international benchmarks.
So, Kenny, there you go. That's the dilemma that the gas companies have got. It may be beneficial sometimes for them to sell it overseas at higher prices, other times to bring it back into this local market. He does say he doesn't see a repeat of really the crisis that we saw earlier on just a few weeks ago, really. And I would say that full interview will be on Business Weekend this Sunday at 11 o'clock.
Okay, and finally, Ross, because it's a Friday, why not? I see Elon Musk has been at it again on Twitter. Is he buying the underperforming Manchester United Football Club or not?
All right. We should explain. Manchester United has had a shocking start to the Premier League. It's at the bottom of the league table at the moment. It's lost 4-0 over the weekend against Brentford. And Elon Musk has put out a tweet saying that he might buy the club off the Glazers. Well, he's now come out with another one today and said, no, this is a long-running joke on Twitter. I'm not buying any sports teams. But he does say, though, a second one. Though, if there were any team, it would be Man U. They were my favourite team as a kid. So put it to rest. He's not buying Man U. But at the moment, they'd be heading for second division if they stay where they are for any length of time.
Typical Elon form on Twitter. Thank you, Ross. Ross Greenwood there. Thank you.